These are visuals of the Indian Air Force Globemaster aircraft delivering the Indian Brahmos missile to the Philippines to guard against any Chinese expansionist threat in the South China Sea region. The Brahmos delivery in April marked one of India's biggest defense export deals. But now, India is on the verge of signing a much bigger export order for these ship-killer Brahmos missiles in Southeast Asia. And the buyer is none other than Vietnam, another country constantly on guard against Chinese salami slicing. Multiple media reports suggest Hanoi has completed initial discussions with New Delhi, including technical and economic details, and the final signing could happen within the next few months. Jai Tirath Joshi, Brahmos' new Director General, stated, quote, "There are many countries that have shown a strong interest in buying Brahmos. We are advancing our negotiations with all interested parties and are quite hopeful of signing our next export order soon," unquote. But it's not just Brahmos. New Delhi is pitching multiple made-in-India defense platforms to deepen military-to-military ties with Vietnam. But more on that later. While the Philippines bought 4 batteries of Brahmos from India in a deal worth $375 million, Vietnam is nearing a reported $700 million deal with India, which is more than double. Now, each battery of Brahmos comprises 4 launchers with 3 missiles each, so Manila now has deployed 48 Brahmos missiles. Under the $700 million deal, Vietnam could now get 8 to 9 batteries of India's Brahmos to protect its borders from China, which means nearly 100 of these nuclear-capable supersonic cruise missiles. Now, just like Philippines, even Vietnam plans to deploy these Brahmos to guard its exclusive economic zone, especially from Chinese salami slicing and its imaginary 9-dashed line. Given that Indian Army has deployed the world's fastest cruise missiles in Ladakh and Arunachal, while the Indian Air Force has modified 40 of its Su-30 NKI fighter jets to carry this missile, so Brahmos is quickly becoming the biggest nightmare of the Chinese PLA. And rightly so. The Indo-Russian Brahmos is the world's fastest supersonic cruise missile with speeds nearing Mach 3 or 3 times the speed of sound. If that wasn't enough, Brahmos has a unique sea skimming feature, which means it can fly extremely close to the surface as low as 10 meters in terminal phase, which means the enemy radars can either not detect it, or if they do detect it, it's usually too late to be intercepted by air defense systems. Now go just ask Pakistan, which failed to even detect, let alone intercept, an Indian Brahmos missile which was accidentally fired into Pakistan in March 2022, despite Chinese air defense systems in place. Now watch this video of Indian Navy test firing the Brahmos. See how it turns horizontally immediately after launch to maintain a low trajectory and fly under the radar. Now coming back to the New Delhi-Hanoi defense deal, it is being reported that both Vietnam Army as well as Vietnam Navy are eager to deploy this Indian missile. Now, in what can be seen as an irony, even Chinese firms attended the Vietnam Defense Expo. But the truth is that the relations between Hanoi and Beijing are one of deep mistrust and tensions. In fact, the last war the Chinese PLA fought, it lost, and it was against Vietnam in 1979. China dubs its invasion of the smaller country as a self-defensive counterstrike, while Vietnam has a more apt name for that war or conflict, calling it War Against Chinese Expansionism. On February 17, 1979, Chinese PLA invaded Vietnam with 27 military divisions totaling 220,000 troops along the 800-mile border. China outnumbered Vietnamese troops 2 versus 1. They should have steamrolled the country. But just 1 month later, the PLA was forced to withdraw all its troops from the country after suffering nearly 30,000 casualties, with Vietnam also suffering about the same. Now, this report by the Hoover Institution states, quote, "The large-scale war with Vietnam also exposed the PLA's humiliating ineptitude and shocking backwardness in comparison with the battle-hardened Vietnamese troops. Many PLA commanders did not know how to read military maps, despite superior artillery firepower and strike capability, unquote. Now, much has changed since 1979, and China is currently carrying out the biggest military buildup the world has seen since the Second World War. Experts predict this time China's focus will be South China Sea, with Xi Jinping intent on, quote, reunification of Taiwan. Vietnam and the Philippines could be caught in the crossfire and are keen to boost their own defense capabilities. Meanwhile, after the 4-year military standoff with the PLA, India has emerged as a reliable and trusted counterweight to Chinese expansionism in the Indo-Pacific. The $700 million deal, when signed with Vietnam, will be India's biggest ever arms exports order to a single country, even bigger than the $600 million defense deals signed with Armenia since 2020, which includes multi-barrel rocket launchers, Akash air defense systems, artillery guns, and anti-drone systems. Defense deals with Armenia, Philippines, and now Vietnam indicate how high-tech Indian military equipment is gaining tremendous traction, with India now exporting to more than 100 countries worldwide. India had a significant presence at the Vietnam International Defense Expo this week. The DRDO showcased several made-in-India defense platforms. These included Astra, beyond visual range air-to-air missile with a range of 110 kilometers, Pinaka multi-barrel rocket launchers, which Armenia also bought from India, Netra AEW&C or Airborne Early Warning and Control System aircraft, the 58-ton Mammoth, the Arjun Mk1 main battle tank, man-portable anti-tank guided missiles, Advanced Towed Artillery Gun System or ATAGS, which has set a world record hit of 48 kilometers, as well as Indian Navy's Varunastra heavyweight torpedo to guard against any Chinese submarines. All of these can be tailored to meet Vietnam's unique defense needs against any threat from across the border. Several Indian defense manufacturers were also present at the Vietnam Defense Expo. Now, these include, apart from the Brahmos Aerospace, Mazgaon Dock Shipbuilders Limited, Hindustan Aeronautics Limited or the HAL, Bharat Dynamics Limited, Bharat Electronics Limited, as well as Larsen & Toubro and Neo Power. Representing India in Vietnam was the Vice Chief of Army Staff, Lieutenant General N.S. Raja Subramani, who also attended a ceremony marking the 80th anniversary of the Vietnam People's Army. An Indian Army statement read, quote, "This visit further strengthens collaboration between the armies of the two nations, which is grounded in strategic collaboration and trust, and is crucial for enhancing security in the Indo-Pacific, thereby ensuring a stable and prosperous region for all," unquote. Earlier this month, a Vietnam Coast Guard ship visited India's Kochi on the 18th of December, which further highlights the growing defense ties between the two nations, as well as a focus on interoperability of the armed forces of these countries. Earlier in August 2024, Vietnam's Prime Minister Pham Minh Chinh also visited India to meet Prime Minister Modi as the two leaders discussed ways to further enhance their bilateral partnership. But what's next for Brahmos? Plans are also in place for the production of lighter, smaller Brahmos NG missile by late 2025 or 2026. While the Brahmos missile weighs 3,000 kilograms or 3 tons, the Brahmos NG could be less than half of that, allowing it to be integrated in a variety of fighter jets, including MiG-29s, Mirage 2000s, as well as the LCA Tejas Mk1A and LCA Tejas Mach 2. Brahmos Director General Jai Tirath Joshi was quoted by Eurasian Times saying, quote, "The project is progressing smoothly. The design blueprint for the new missile has been finalized and we are now moving towards the development phase. The first prototype would be fielded for integration on the Su-30 MKI air combat platform. After all the development and integration related work is over, we will then proceed towards the trial phase. All these tasks may take 2 to 3 years," unquote. So by 2030, we could see majority of Indian Air Force fighter jet squadrons being armed with Brahmos NG, while it could become a natural choice for countries like the Philippines and Vietnam who have bought the Brahmos and are eager to boost their military capabilities to match Chinese militarization. The latest India-Vietnam Brahmos deal highlights Prime Minister Modi government's ambitions not just to make India a powerhouse in global defense exports industry, but also to make India a major player in the geopolitics of South China Sea and Indo-Pacific at large. Have your say. Will the sale of Brahmos or Indian celestial weapon boost New Delhi's defense exports even further? Leave a comment with your opinion, hit the like button and subscribe to Inconnect News.